This is Donald Trump's account back in June of how Operation Sindoor's ceasefire was brokered. Take a watch.
He said, look, if you're going to go fighting each other, it was getting very bad. You know how bad that last attack was. It was really bad. If you're going to go fighting each other, we're not doing any trade deal. No, you have to do a trade deal. They said, we're not doing any trade deal. And in fact, I had the general, who was very impressive. The general from Pakistan was in my office last week. You know, Prime Minister Modi is a great friend of mine. He's a great gentleman. He's a great man. And I got them to reason. I said, we're not doing a trade deal if you're going to fight. And if you're going to fight each other, we're not doing a trade deal. And you know what? They said, no, I want to do the trade deal. We stopped the nuclear war. Go ahead.
Roger, let me start with you first. What does a statement like that, what impact does it have on India's bilateral ties with the US?
No, I think these claims have created a lot of toxic environment in which the relationship is being conducted. For nearly 25 years, I mean, the relationship has been on a continuous upward trajectory. And a lot of effort went into building mutual trust, bipartisan. Successive administrations from the last years of Clinton, then we had Bush, then we had Obama, then we had Trump. Even Trump, the first term was very, very different from the second term, and then President Biden. So I think the way, the personal style of Trump, the last time around when he was president, he used to daily attack Pakistan, saying Pakistan is playing both sides of the street. I think in terms of the claims he's made, look, I think he himself was not directly involved. So his Secretary of State, Rubio, had called both Indian and the Pakistani foreign ministers once. You had J.D. Vance once calling the Indian side. In fact, our minister was saying in the parliament yesterday that actually what India told the American interlocutors was, if we want to have a ceasefire, you must tell the Pakistani military to call the Indian military. So that's how the ceasefire actually occurred. The Director General Military Operations in Pakistan called his Indian counterpart and said, look, we want a ceasefire. And that's how the ceasefire was
I heard
enforced.
that he even said more than that. He actually pleaded for relief from the Indian barrage.
Yeah, India really hammered using a whole range of missiles, including BrahMos. I think that had a big effect on Pakistan. So in the end, this was really where Pakistan telling India, look, let's stop now.
Yeah, so it certainly wasn't trade pressure from the US.
That is a complete, see, at least in the first case, Americans were involved. They did make the phone calls. But this idea of saying, I told them no trade deal, no peace, that was completely his imagination.
And what do you make, Raja, of this outreach to Munir, seemed to be bypassing the civilian government, Islamabad?
Oh, yeah. I think the problem is, even when the Americans talked about democracy, they always dealt with the military. But I think what is interesting this time is for 4 years, Biden administration did not even once reach out to Pakistani Prime Minister or the Pakistani military. Pulled out of Afghanistan and said, look, we're not going to have much to do with Pakistan. And before that, as I mentioned, in Trump's 4 years, there again, the relationship was very frozen. But this time around, I mean, I think Trump seemed to have taken a fancy to the Pakistani general.
And tell me, I believe that the concerns from India are very deep-seated. They date back to the Cold War, when effectively the US had that Pakistan military engagement. It basically...
No, you see, as recently, I mean, if you go back to 9/11, 2001, between 2001 and 2000, when Trump was the president, 2018 or so, when Pakistan got almost $40 billion worth of, assistance, both military and civilian. And you used to remember General Musharraf. I'm not talking about the early Cold War. I mean, this is post 9/11. He was serenaded everywhere. He was treated like, he's the front line of global war on terror, so Pakistan had a key role. It did have a key role because it was next to Afghanistan. So I don't think we are seeing anything new. I mean, so this is really...
But there's a renewal of something, as you said, had been dormant.
No, that's what. It was dormant during the Biden administration.
Right.
So these guys have reconnected. But I'm not saying India is not losing its sleep because the US and Pakistan are talking to each other.
It's not. Okay. Yeah. It's not. Doesn't fear of being sidelined.
No, we've seen this movie before. So I don't see. In fact.
Or the rise of terrorism.
That is a problem. And I think
the impacts on India.
Yeah. So that is a problem. And I think on that, what India is saying now, Prime Minister Modi has said, look, we're going to deal with every time there's a terror attack, we're going to respond with power. So India is not complaining to the Americans, saying, look, please do something about Pakistan. This now India is saying, look, if you hit us, we're going to hit you back, and hit you back hard.
So what's the link between Munir and the terrorists, or especially in Kashmir? What's the link?
Look, I think for nearly 50 years, Pakistan has trained armed terrorist groups as part of state policy. So they used to operate in Afghanistan to destabilize Afghanistan. Some of them were directed at India. So this is, again, I mean, a long-standing policy of using what they call so-called strategic assets, of creating so-called militant groups, which actually are funded by Pakistani state and work as proxies for the Pakistani state. But that's been going on for years, and I think India has raised this issue internationally. Through the UN, some terrorists have been designated groups, and even the Trump administration recently, India says, look, there's a group called the Resistant Front, TRF. So the American government has just declared it a terrorist organization. Right. So it's not that Americans and we are not talking to each other. So the problem is Trump's personal style and the optics of this. For all the talk about U.S. and Pakistan relationship, right now, we haven't seen any big deals yet. Yesterday Trump said, look, we're going to give them 19% tariff rate, and that Pakistan has offered its oil fields to U.S., and the U.S. is going to designate a company to explore oil. And then he also said, maybe someday we'll sell that oil to India. So, I mean, I'd like to see them convincing Pakistan, because Pakistan is always opposed to trade with India. Right. But if we can get Pakistan to sell oil to India, welcome.
Right. Let's go to the trade aspect now. So how does, Akshay, if I direct this to you, the combination of Trump's tariffs, Trump's 25% tariffs, so we're just showing on the screen now, possible BRICS tariff, people have talked about 10%, and possible 100% tariffs as secondary sanctions on Russian oil. How does this impact the bilateral relationship?
It's certainly a time of uncertainty. The United States is not just one of the largest trading partners, it's amongst the top 3, but also it has been one of the largest foreign investors in the country, and also the largest participant in India's capital markets. And so the impact of a tariff negotiation is not just purely on what happens to trade, it also has implications for a broader economic partnership with the United States. Keep in mind that also there are so many American companies that are based in India that are exporting from India or in services.
So what happens to the American companies that have invested in India or manufacturing in India, and then they want to export back to the United States?
At the moment, they are included. They are going to get impacted. Is it possible that a call-out is made for, a special clause is made for the American companies? It's possible. Those exceptions have been made by the United States government. But at most, that can target a few companies. I mean, there are so many companies in India that are operating, and the economic integration is so deep that it'll be hard to impose such an exception, more comprehensively. I would say that actually it's really the negotiations at this point, while they have indicated 25%, but they've also hinted that it is not complete. I think that there are negotiations also on what India can do on energy and on defense. And so I think we'll have to wait and watch what transpires with the negotiations.
Okay, so that's not the final tariff figure. We can also take a look at Trump's Truth Social post on Thursday, where he said, I quote, "I don't care what India does with Russia. They can take their dead economies down together for all I care. We have done very little business with India. Their tariffs are too high, among the highest in the world." So Raja had mentioned this issue of trust. Is this sort of tone, is it starting to, perhaps chip away at that trust that had been built up, as Raja had said, for decades?
Trust is important, but in economics and business, contracts are equally important. And so we will have to see what kind of commercial agreements are worked out. I think that's the the cornerstone of an economic partnership. The markets were down a little bit
And the rupee lost value.
when the first news broke out, but they've recovered again already.
Let's take a quick look at the tariffs for countries around India and perhaps competitive with India. These were announced by the White House on this morning here in Asia. You could see the table, so China to be announced is not included in there. India at 25%, Taiwan on 20%. I think Taiwan was hoping for lower than that. Bangladesh, Sri Lanka also on 20%, so lower than India. There's also, as you had mentioned, Pakistan on 19%, and then Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines also on 19%. How would India see that in terms of, because it seeks to be more competitive than its rivals? How is that looking so far for India?
If you go purely by numbers, of course, we'd want to have a competitive number. So a 15% or a 10%, which is more aligned with what Japan and Korea have done, would be more favorable to us, no doubt. Again, equally what matters is how the businesses perceive what is happening. So if, say, we had, say, only a 10% tariff, but say our foreign exchange rate, if the rupee depreciates by a much larger amount, then it's going to negate the win that we have from the negotiation. If we have a low tariff and we have a stable exchange rate, but we are not seeing foreign investments come in, then neither the tariff rate nor the exchange rate is going to be helpful. We need the foreign direct investment to come in. And like I mentioned when we started, America is actually the largest foreign investor in the capital markets too. So we need capital, whether it is through FDI or foreign institutional investment, we need capital. And capital is scarce. One of the messages I want to convey is capital is scarce, it's getting increasingly scarce. And in India, we would welcome capital. No doubt that our trade negotiators are working to bring that down. But I think my eye is on a broader set of indicators.